Working parents are not burning out because they are weak. They are burning out because their lives have been built around a completely impossible sentence: be fully present at work, be fully present at home, do both well, do both fast, and don't let either one show how much it's costing you. That is the trap, and millions of parents are living inside it every single day. They wake up already behind, before the first coffee, before the first email, before the first school refusal, missing shoe, lunchbox problem, traffic jam, or message from a teacher that lands right in the middle of the workday. The pressure starts before the day has even really begun, and that pressure doesn't just sit in the calendar, it sits in the body, in the jaw, in the shoulders, in the chest, in the nervous system that never quite gets the message that it is allowed to relax. That's why working parents are burning out so fast, not because they don't love their children enough, not because they don't manage time well enough, not because they need a better planner, a better mindset, or a prettier morning routine. They are burning out because too many people are trying to carry two full-time worlds inside one human body. And somewhere along the way, this started being treated as normal. That's what makes it so dangerous. It looks normal. The school run, the laptop, the packed lunches, the meetings, the laundry, the after-school pickup, the bedtime routine, the unread messages, the financial pressure, the guilt about not being there enough, the guilt about never stopping, the guilt about being distracted with your child, the guilt about being distracted at work. It all blends together so smoothly that parents can forget they are living under relentless strain. They just think, this must be what adulthood feels like, but this is more than adulthood. This is chronic overload, and chronic overload changes people. It makes them more reactive, less patient, more forgetful, more emotionally thin-skinned, more likely to snap over something tiny because nothing in their system is tiny anymore. Everything is stacked, everything is cumulative. Everything is one more thing, and that phrase matters, one more thing. That is a soundtrack of working parent burnout. One more form, one more reply, one more school email, one more grocery run, one more work deadline, one more emotional conversation, one more reminder, one more load of washing, one more thing to remember that nobody else remembered. The burnout isn't usually caused by one dramatic collapse. It comes from the fact that there is never just one thing. There are always 12, and most working parents are expected to carry them quietly. That's another reason this burnout happens so fast. There is very little recovery built into modern family life. You work, then you parent. Then you do the invisible admin of family life. Then you try to get some sleep. Then you wake up and do it again. Where exactly is the recovery supposed to go? Where is the part where the nervous system comes down? Where is the part where the brain is not tracking schedules, emotions, food, money, school, safety, household needs, work responsibilities, and everybody else's expectations? For many parents, it simply doesn't exist. And when recovery disappears, burnout speeds up, because stress by itself is not always the thing that breaks us. Stress without recovery does. That's the part a lot of people miss. Working parents can actually do hard things. They do hard things all the time. They are resourceful, capable, creative, committed. They can move mountains when they have to. But capability is not the same thing as endless capacity. You can be incredibly competent and still be completely depleted. In fact, many of the most burned out parents are the ones who look the most high functioning. They get it done. They make the calls, show up to work, show up to school events, keep the calendar moving, remember the snacks, answer the emails, pay the bill, sign the permission slip, smile when someone asks how they're doing. People look at them and think, wow, they're handling a lot, and maybe they are. But handling a lot is not the same as being okay. A parent can be functioning beautifully on the outside and falling apart quietly on the inside. That quiet part matters, because working parent burnout is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like irritability, brain fog, a short fuse at 6:17 p.m., a strange numbness during moments that are supposed to feel meaningful, a child asking for help and the parent feeling anger before tenderness, then guilt right after, a marriage that turns into pure logistics, a weekend that doesn't restore anyone because it is just unpaid labor and casual clothes. This is why burnout can feel so confusing. Parents think, why am I reacting like this? Why am I so tired all the time? Why does every little thing feel hard? Why do I love my family so much and still feel like I'm drowning in their needs? Because burnout distorts love, not by removing it, by crowding it. The love is still there. It's just buried under fatigue, responsibility, and the constant pressure to perform in multiple roles at once. And for working parents, those roles are often in direct conflict. Work wants focus. Parenting requires interruption. Work rewards consistency. Children are chaos. Work has metrics. Family life is messy. Work gives at least some structure. Parenting keeps moving the target, so parents spend the day being pulled in opposite directions by systems that do not care how impossible the combination feels. A child gets sick on the day of an important meeting. A boss wants flexibility from someone who hasn't sat down all day. A parent is physically at work while mentally at home, or physically at home while mentally trapped in work. And in both places, there is often the same painful feeling. I am not enough here. I am not enough there. And I am running out of myself in the middle. That inner split wears people down fast. It creates the feeling of failing in two directions at once. And then social comparison makes it worse, because modern parents are not just living their own lives. They are living next to everybody else's version of how life is supposed to look. The tidy homes, the organized lunches, the calm mothers, the involved fathers, the successful careers, the smiling family photos, the advice about balance delivered by people who never seem sweaty, late, or overwhelmed. It creates this quiet sense that everyone else has found a rhythm you somehow missed, but most families are struggling more than they admit. Most working parents are not balancing, they are trading off, robbing one part of life to keep another part going, borrowing energy they don't have, running on guilt as if guilt were fuel. And guilt is a terrible fuel. It burns hot, it burns fast, and it leaves people empty. Working parents feel guilty at work because of home, guilty at home because of work, guilty when they say no, guilty when they say yes, guilty when they need space, guilty when they lose patience, guilty when they want 10 silent minutes and no one touching them. That emotional load is exhausting on its own. Then add the mental load is exhausting on its own. Not just doing tasks, remembering them, tracking them, anticipating them, carrying the invisible architecture of family life in your head all the time. That's what burns people out. Not only the effort, the constant pre-effort, the monitoring, the planning, the remembering, the decision fatigue. What's for dinner? Who needs new shoes? Did the form get signed? Who is picking up tomorrow? Did the prescription get renewed? Is the birthday gift bought? Did the teacher get a reply? Are we overdue for the dentist? Why is the teen suddenly quiet? Did I miss the payment? Should we be worried about screen time? Do we need to talk about behavior? When do I fit in my own medical appointment? Why am I so tired I can't think straight? Working parent burnout is often less about one huge demand and more about relentless cognitive clutter. The brain never fully empties, the taps never close. And this affects mothers and fathers, though often in different ways and at different intensities. Many mothers still carry a disproportionate share of the invisible work, even when both parents are employed. Many fathers carry pressure to provide, stay composed, and push through without naming their own distress. Both can feel trapped by expectations. Both can feel they are failing. Both can become emotionally distant, not because they care less, but because they are too overloaded to stay open. And children feel that shift, not because they need perfect parents. They don't. But kids do notice when the emotional climate of the home changes. They notice when everybody is rushing, when patience is gone, when the answer is always in a minute, when dinner feels tense, when parents are physically present but mentally elsewhere, when stress becomes the loudest voice in the room. This is why working parent burnout doesn't stay contained inside the parent. It leaks into the tone of the house, into the marriage, into the way children are responded to, into bedtime, into mornings, into the tiny moments that make a family feel safe or strained. And that can create even more shame for parents, because now it's not just "I'm tired," It's, my tiredness is affecting people I love. That is a painful realization, but it is also an important one, because it reminds us that burnout is not just a personal weakness to fix in private, it is a family issue, a social issue, a cultural issue. Parents are being asked to hold together jobs, homes, children, finances, emotional support, school involvement, digital monitoring, and future planning inside systems that often offer too little flexibility, too little community, and too little margin for actual human life. Of course they are burning out. Of course they are doing it faster than expected. Many are working in an economy that feels less forgiving, raising children in a culture that feels more intense, trying to create stability for kids while privately feeling unstable themselves, trying to stay emotionally available while constantly interrupted, trying to protect family life from speed while living at a pace that erodes everyone. And here's the part no productivity hack can solve. A lot of working parents are not failing because they are disorganized. They are burning out because the load is structurally too big. When a parent finishes paid work and starts unpaid work, that is still work. When they spend the evening managing meltdowns, homework, dinner, dishes, emotional needs, baths, laundry, and tomorrow's logistics, that is still work. When they lie in bed mentally reviewing what they forgot and what tomorrow demands, that is still work. The body may be still. The labor is not over. That is why rest can feel so out of reach. And when parents do get a moment, they often use it to catch up, not recover. Answer the message. Book the appointment. Clean the kitchen. Get ahead on tomorrow. Research the thing. Order the shoes. Check the school app. The moment gets swallowed before it becomes rest, so the tank never fills. It just gets used more efficiently. That's not sustainable. And yet so many parents are trying to be sustainable under unsustainable conditions. That phrase explains so much, unsustainable conditions, because burnout is not always a sign that something is wrong with the parent. Sometimes it is a sign that something is wrong with the pace, the support, the expectations, the systems, and the amount one family is trying to absorb alone. For some parents, there is no village, just a calendar, a childcare bill, a phone full of reminders, and the ongoing pressure to make it all work. For others, there may be support, but still no breathing room, because support is not the same thing as enough, and many families are operating with such narrow margins that even a minor problem becomes a major destabilizer. One sick child, one broken appliance, one work crisis, one unexpected bill, one rough week emotionally. That's all it takes to tip the whole system. When families live that close to the edge, burnout doesn't take years. It can come on frighteningly fast, and when it does, parents often misread it. They think they need to try harder, be more grateful, stop complaining, push through, get tougher, be better at coping. But burnout is not a moral failure. It is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is not proof that someone was not built for parenthood. It is often what happens when a caring person spends too long giving more than they can restore. And working parents are expert givers. They give energy they do not have, attention they cannot spare, patience they are scraping together from nowhere, tenderness while running on fumes, professionalism while half their mind is with the child, presence at home while their body still feels trapped in work mode. That kind of split living is exhausting. So, what do working parents actually need? Not more judgment, not more impossible standards, not more advice that assumes they simply forgot to take care of themselves. They need compassion that is grounded in reality. They need more honest conversations about load, more shared responsibility, more flexibility, more permission to do less, lower the bar, simplify, and stop treating every family task like a test of love. They need workplaces that remember employees have actual lives. They need homes where one parent is not silently becoming the family operating system. They need recovery, not just efficiency. They need room to be human. And maybe most of all, they need the truth. The truth that feeling exhausted by this does not mean you are doing it wrong. It may mean you are responding normally to a life that asks too much, too often, for too long. If you are a working parent and you feel yourself getting sharper, flatter, more distant, more tearful, more numb, more forgetful, more resentful, more fragile than you used to be, pay attention to that. Not with shame, with respect. Your system may be telling the truth before your mind is ready to hear it. You cannot keep running every part of life at emergency speed and expect your heart, mind, marriage, or parenting to remain untouched. Something will start to fray. That does not mean the family is broken. It means something needs gentleness. Something needs support. Something needs to be carried differently. Because working parents do not need to become superheroes, they need to stop being asked to live like machines. They need to hear that love is not measured by how much depletion they can survive, that a good parent is not one who never needs help, that being overwhelmed does not cancel out devotion, that children benefit not from perfect parents, but from parents with enough air left in them to stay emotionally alive. And maybe that is the real message here. Working parents are burning out so fast because life has become too full of demand and too empty of recovery, too full of expectation and too empty of grace, too full of tasks and too empty of support. So if this season feels heavier than you thought it would, believe that feeling. You are not imagining it. You are not failing. You are carrying a load that would strain almost anyone. And the answer is not to become harder. It is to become more honest about what this is costing. Because once we tell the truth about that cost, something important happens. The sheen begins to lift, the pressure becomes visible, and the parent who has been quietly running on empty can finally hear the one thing they may have needed all along. This is hard for a reason, and you were never meant to carry it alone.